We go to the Western Cape now, where the African National Congress's biggest region in the Western Cape convened its conference in Cape Town over the weekend. And it has been over a year since the Dullah Omar region was disbanded. Our reporter Kevin Brandt brings us the latest as the Dullah Omar ANC regional conference wraps up. Kevin, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this would be very significant as to what came out of the conference, considering that it is now a distant memory when last the ANC was in power in the Western Cape. So quite a critical meeting to have. What is the latest or the outcomes that you can share?
Very good afternoon to you, Sandy. The line is not so clear, but at the moment voting is still underway here at the Southern Sun Hotel within the Cape Town CBD, where the ANC's Dullah Omar Regional Conference is currently underway. A floor just below us, that is where delegates are still voting for the very key positions of the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, treasurer, as well as the secretary of that very key 6th region here in the Western Cape for the African National Congress. As you also alluded to, some of the issues and struggles that played out in the Dullah Omar region, it essentially encapsulates all the suburbs within Cape Town, within the city of Cape Town Metro, making it a very prominent region for the African National Congress here in the province. And that is why leaders earlier this week also emphasized the importance of ironing out some of the issues within the region itself. There's now new leadership being elected, particularly important ahead of the 2024 national and provincial elections set to take place. We know that the ANC lost leadership of the Western Cape in 2009 to the Democratic Alliance, and there are still hopes from the African National Congress, and it's been accentuated by the leaders here as well, that the reason why they contest elections is to win, and there is still hopes of the African National Congress once again then taking over the reins here within the Western Cape. So there's a very vibrant atmosphere here. There earlier on was a lot of singing. Behind me, just here towards my right, there is a closed session underway. Joining me now to talk a bit more about the events unfolding here is the spokesperson, Mohammed Sayed. He's the spokesperson of the ANC here in the Western Cape, and he's going to tell us a bit more about events that unfolded. It is now the second day of the conference. Can you tell us what transpired during the course of the morning?
Thank you very much to you and to the viewers of your station for being tuned in to the events relating to this particular conference. And the name is Mohammed Khalid Sayed. Thank you very much. So I think thus far you covered yesterday's proceedings. The nominations for the top 5 took place yesterday. Credentials were passed. As we speak currently, delegates are in the process of voting for their preferred top 5 to lead the collective of the ANC in the Dullah Omar region. While that is also happening in this hall over here, you've also got while that is happening in this particular hall over here, you've got the plenary taking place. In the plenary, there is the organizational report that's being discussed. Now, the organizational report reflects the state of the organization and work that has been done since the disbandment of the previous REC up until now. There's also a discussion taking place on the program of action, proposals for the program of action for the ANC in the Dullah Omar region, so that the newly elected leadership gets cracking and unites around the program of action that is being discussed.
Earlier on, we were at the UDF, the 40th anniversary being celebrated there in Mitchell's Plain in Rocklands, and the current state of the ANC came up. A lot of the activists there felt that how they started back in 1983, the formation of the UDF is not exactly, what they see playing out in the leadership, in particular the ANC being in governance of the country. You earlier this week spoke about the renewal process, also the issues within the Dullah Omar region. How do you see this election process playing out here, new leadership for the region being appointed today, but also speaking to some of the issues and gearing up towards the elections of next year, offering South Africans maybe a better governance?
No, most certainly, and it's very appropriate that the leadership will be announced today on the same day that the UDF is being commemorated, because the UDF, however, what we also need to understand, the United Democratic Front was a front. It was not the ANC, but it was a front, and the African National Congress supported that particular front from exile, and it promoted the message of the ANC. The political dynamics have somewhat changed in our country, where the ANC is an active political party contesting for state power. But we understand, and we are very humbled by the mere fact that our veterans, those who are stalwarts in the United Democratic Movement, even though they are critical, the mere fact that they are critical of the African National Congress means that they have an interest in reviving the ANC, because they still see the ANC as the vehicle to liberate our people. The ANC is still the vehicle to ensure that in the city of Cape Town, we're able to hold the DA accountable. We're able to break down apartheid spatial planning, for example. And part of what the UDF did, we looked at it, there were various civic formations, for example. Bread and butter issues were taken up. We want this particular leadership, and part of the discussions taking place inside is we want this particular leadership that is elected to be issue-based. They are leading a region. They're not leading a province or a national structure. They'll be leading a region. At the regional level, particularly the biggest region, which holds the city of Cape Town, one of the most unequal cities in the world, actually, and racially stratified. We need this particular leadership to champion the daily bread and butter issues affecting the most vulnerable in Cape Town. That's how we are going to be winning over hearts and minds to the African National Congress. But also, finally, because the UDF also represented the fact that Congress tradition teaches you to move beyond narrow party politics. So, this particular leadership will need to work very, very closely with various civil society formations, including political parties in the city of Cape Town that have a similar vision to ensure that life improves for the most vulnerable in Cape Town.
Mohammed Sayed, spokesperson of the ANC in the Western Cape, thank you very much for speaking to us, Sandy. That was Mohammed Sayed talking to us about renewal, talking to us about discussions taking place here by some of the leaders that might take over the reins now of the Dullah Omar region here in the Western Cape. He also mentioned about the issues that have been identified, that they are working on, and also giving us a bit of insight as to the vehicle that this elective conference sets in motion for these leaders being elected here as we move towards next year's elections. Sandy?
And Kevin, I can hear that there's quite a bit of ambience, and you may not be able to hear me, but I think it's quite a significant symbolism, as Mr. Sayed was saying, that the UDF, the United Democratic Front, as a civic and political formation, was not necessarily a political party, but of course it was also supportive of the struggle for liberation, and for the mere fact that the UDF has decided or opted to focus more on bread and butter issues, grassroots matters, micro issues that plague people on a daily basis, safety and security, service delivery, policing, law and order, that in his view, this is an endorsement of even the current leadership of the ANC. Kevin, if you can hear me.
That is correct, yes, Sandy, and that was sentiments also shared by the activists earlier this morning when I was at the Rockland Civic Centre in Mitchell's Plain, where a wreath-laying ceremony was held. Those activists felt that some of the goals that they set out 40 years ago, that the current government at the present moment is not hitting the mark, in particular with regard to issues when it comes to South Africans, as you talked about, the bread and butter issues, some of the key day-to-day struggles that South Africans face on a daily. But even there, it was shared, the sentiments, same year with Mohammed Sayed, the spokesperson in the Western Cape, that there is still room for renewal, that issues have been identified within the ruling party. He also speaks to and echoes sentiments coming from people in government, in leadership itself, talking about this renewal process of the leading party in the country. And, as as we go towards next year's polls, these are definitely some of the issues that will be focused on and that will be highlighted, as a lot of communities will be voicing their concerns and voicing their grievances, in particular with regard to what is currently playing out in government. But yes, an endorsement coming there from Syed, and we don't expect him to say anything else. You know, he is the Western Cape's representation here of the African National Congress, but hoping to see, you know, change, and hoping to see change for the better for the people of South Africa, Sandy.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think they've just made peace with the fact that they will still be in the opposition benches in the Western Cape, by his own admission, saying that they are there to hold the DA, who is governing the Western Province, to hold them accountable, as opposed to saying they are essentially going in it to win back that province. But we're going to have to leave it there, Kevin. Any updates, we'll certainly be in touch with you. That's ENCA's reporter, Kevin Brandt.